Sure that CCN clip ready. We need it for the second.
4.
Facts from the Clarendon correspondent coming through now.
3.
All the international stories in the folder. Good to
2.
Newsreaders all set.
Yeah, man, everything set, everything ready.
1.
From the Grill to Morant Point, News Talk 93 FM has got it covered. Across the 7 seas to the 4 corners of the world, it's all captured on the 93 radar. 93.1, 93.3, 93.5, 93.7 and 93.9 on your FM dial. Real News at 5 starts now.
O'clock news here on Newstalk 93 FM. I'm Andre Bernard. Coming up in this newscast, departure lounge at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston evacuated after smoke was seen coming from the exhaust system. Medical Association of Jamaica, MAJ, raises concerns about the country's readiness to respond to critical issues following deadly outbreaks of infections at 2 hospitals. Court rules that the Children's Advocate does not have the right to withhold information where rights to freedom of movement have been severely restricted, and Opposition Senator Marlene Malahoo Fort suspended from the Senate. And now the details. The departure lounge at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston was today evacuated after smoke got into the exhaust system. Senior Director of Commercial and Development Planning at the airport, Alfred MacDonald, says the smoke emission is as a result of welding work being done by contracted workers. MacDonald says the airport had some contracted workers doing welding and smoke got into the exhaust system. He says there were some concerns about smoke inhalation, and the departure lounge and the ticketing section were evacuated. As a result, he says the authorities were rerouting passengers to ensure that flights go off despite the situation. The Medical Association of Jamaica, the MAJ, is raising concerns about the country's readiness to respond to critical issues following deadly outbreaks of infections at 2 of the country's hospitals. So far, there have been 40 cases which have resulted in 18 deaths. Health Minister Dr. Fenton Ferguson has indicated that overseas experts are being brought into the island to help battle the infections. However, in a statement, President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Merton Smith, says the association is concerned about the Health Ministry's response to the outbreaks. Smith says while there may have been a breakdown in the reporting protocols between the affected healthcare facilities and the Ministry of Health, the subsequent response of the ministry is cause for concern. He says this situation should be used by the ministry as a lesson to become more proactive. The MAJ president says while he empathizes with families that have lost babies, preterm infants are susceptible to infections. He's calling for the government to give more financial support to the health sector to allow it to adequately respond to the needs of the public. Meanwhile, the Board of Directors of the Western Regional Health Authority, the WRHA, has issued a statement in light of the death of the 18 babies at the 2 hospitals. In a release sent to our newsroom, the WRHA says the Cornwall Regional Hospital is again expanding its capacity to accommodate additional premature babies in light of the death of a number of at-risk newborns at the institution. Following a meeting of the Board of Management yesterday, where a report was tendered on the matter, it was decided that steps would be taken to further expand the nursery to accommodate additional neonates or babies born prematurely. The WRHA adds that it has been expanding the nursery incrementally over time in response to the demand for more accommodation for babies. In addition, the institution will be hiring more registered nurses as well as patient care assistants in an effort to increase the hospital's nurse-to-patient ratio. And founder of the Hear the Children Cry, Betty Ann Blaine, says she thought that news of the deaths of 18 babies at the University Hospital of the West Indies and the Cornwall Regional Hospital in St. James was a mistake.
We were stunned, those of us advocates and all of us that Hear the Children's Cry. We were completely stunned. We thought it was a mistake. We couldn't believe it, that 18 babies had died. And worse than that, that this obviously had been covered up, that nobody had said anything over this period of time that the baby died. And, of course, that made it worse, because here's the point. After 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 deaths, you would have thought that somebody would say something to prevent the other babies. In other words, how do you cover up something like that?
She says the situation is a clear matter of gross negligence.
Then the minister says he didn't know until a couple of days ago. Look, this is one of the most disgraceful things that have happened, and we've had some serious tragedies as a result of negligence and don't care, as we say. The 7 teenagers who perished at Armadale, them locked them up, the key. They couldn't find the keys. So 7 teenagers perished in an inferno. Here we have 18 babies dying over a very short period of time, and nobody did anything. This is worse than gross negligence. It's almost criminal. Because you have to ask yourself, how could anybody be so callous? How could people be so careless?
Blaine also asks a question of the Minister of Health, Dr. Fenton Ferguson.
I'm a woman. I have 2 daughters. I have grandchildren. We carry babies in our womb, so we know what it feels like when you give birth, whether it's at full term or prematurely. When you give birth to your baby, and then that baby passes on. I've worked with a lot of women who have had that experience. It is indescribably traumatic to carry that baby, whether it's to the 9 months full term or prematurely, and then give birth, and then for that child to die in such a careless, callous way. So when we put out our press release yesterday, we are asking the minister, were these deaths preventable?
Founder of Hear the Children's Cry, Betty Ann Blaine. She was speaking on the evening edition with host Garfield Higgins last evening. You're listening to news here on Newstalk 93 FM. It is now 8 minutes after 5 o'clock. Former president of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, the JMDA, Dr. Alfred Dawes' efforts to advance to more senior positions in the public health system are being obstructed, leading to speculations within the JMDA that he is being punished for his exposure in May this year of the health service's extremely poor state. According to a JMDA member, the president was getting frustrated because since speaking out, applications he has made for more senior positions have been put on hold. The JMDA member says Dr. Dawes also indicated that he did not feel as if he had a future in the public service. Dr. Dawes recently resigned as president of the association and as a senior registrar at the Spanish Town Hospital. He says he did not want to comment on why he was giving up his post at the hospital. He says he has given a lot of service professionally and also as an advocate over the last year, and at this point in time, he wants to concentrate on professional development. The Court of Appeal has ruled that the children's advocate does not have a statutory right to withhold information in circumstances where rights to freedom of movement have been severely restricted. This is in reference to the case of former Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Culture, Sidney Bartley, against whom a complaint was made to the children's advocate. The Court of Appeal made the ruling today when it dismissed an appeal brought by the children's advocate against a Supreme Court order to disclose the nature of the complaint to Bartley. In dismissing the appeal, the court ruled that the children's advocate's appeal is without merit. Legal cost was awarded to Mr. Bartley. Jamaica Labour Party opposition senator Marlene Malahoo Fort has been suspended from service in the Senate until she furnishes the President, Floyd Morris, with a letter supporting her claims that the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council had expressed an interest in travelling to Jamaica to hear cases. Malahoo Fort made the claim in the Upper House yesterday during her contribution to the 3 bills related to replacing the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council with the Caribbean Court of Justice, the CCJ. Following insistence from members of the government side, Morris requested that he be presented with the letter today. In suspending Malahoo Fort, Morris said she was contemptuous. He pointed to the fact that she relayed a message to him via the marshal that she has already told him that the letter will be produced. 2 boys and a girl of the Seaforth High School in St. Thomas who were arrested and charged in the summer of 2014 for the forcible abduction and rape of their female schoolmate have walked free from the St. Thomas Children's Court. When they appeared in court yesterday afternoon, the complainant expressed a wish not to proceed with the case. The Crown offered no further evidence at the request of the complainant. According to police reports, in the summer of last year, the 4, along with other children, were at a cookout in the community of Dumfries in the parish. It was alleged that the girl and one of the boys held the complainant and allowed the other boy to rape her. The matter was reported to the Morant Bay Police, who later arrested and charged the 3 students. A top military commander during the May 2010 operations in western Kingston this morning recounted how his troops stumbled upon a cache of more than 4,000 assorted rounds of ammunition. Major Marlon Kennedy told the West Kingston Commission of Inquiry that the ammunition were contained in plastic bottles left in the trunk of a car that was parked outside Christopher Dudoscoke's presidential clique offices in the Java section of Tivoli Gardens. According to Kennedy, who was the commanding officer for Alpha Company 2nd Battalion and the Jamaica Regiment, the ammunition were for M16 and AK-47 assault rifles, as well as 9mm handguns. Chairman of the Internal External Committee of Parliament, Derek Smith, says the latest crime statistics in Jamaica has prompted him to seek for Commissioner of Police Dr. Carl Williams to come before the committee and speak to the grave problem.
The last information I have, which was really yesterday, was 1,010. It's the last information I have up yesterday, as I said. I chair the Internal External Parliamentary Committee, and that committee has, as part of its remit, the responsibility of looking at matters pertaining to national security in the country.
Smith, who is also the opposition spokesperson on national security, says the crisis is that 17 of the 19 police divisions have seen an escalation in the murder rate.
In that regard, I thought it would be best then let's ask the Commissioner to come in and explain to us the difficulties he's facing both in the street or from his own perspective within the ranks of the JCF. This is not an isolated situation. We did it a couple of years ago while I was also in the chair with the then Commissioner. So we thought that was the best route, because when you look at the situation in the country, we have some 19 police divisions across the island, and 70 of these police positions are ahead of last year.
Chairman of the Internal External Committee of Parliament, Derek Smith. He was speaking on the evening edition with host Garfield Higgins last evening. Chairman of the Clarendon Parish Council, Mayor Cian Barneswell, says the council will begin taking steps to confiscate private lands that are left unattended for an extended period of time. He says properties that are not being maintained by owners have over time become a hiding place for criminals, especially when they are covered in overgrown shrubbery. Mayor Barneswell explained that if the property is not being cared for by the owner, the council will be forced to take legal action after providing adequate notice. The mayor was addressing concerns of residents at the Racetrack New Denbigh Citizens Association community meeting yesterday. The residents say they fear for their lives as they cannot afford to continue to take on the cost of clearing unoccupied lots in close proximity to their own properties. Councillor for the Denbigh Division, Joel Williams, also took the opportunity to encourage the citizens to pay their property taxes so that the council can afford to clean up some of the unoccupied properties and provide a safer environment for them. In news from the region, Chief Executive Officer of JetBlue Airlines, Robin Hayes, says Barbados will see increased airlift out of South Florida by April 2016. Hayes says this entirely new market for the airline's 75 route between the U.S. and the Caribbean will see daily flights between Barbados and Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. He also announced the expansion of service between Curaçao and New York with a third weekly flight next year. And that's local and regional news. For international news, let's join the BBC.
BBC News with Jonathan Izard. Mexican officials have warned that Hurricane Patricia, one of the most powerful storms ever recorded, could inflict catastrophic damage when it hits the country's Pacific coast in the next few hours. Weather forecasters predict winds of more than 300 kilometres an hour and a storm surge. Residents in some coastal areas have been told to leave. Homes and businesses have been boarded up. Schools and airports closed. One of the areas most threatened is the resort of Puerto Vallarta. At least 5 people were killed and 30 wounded in the Libyan city of Benghazi when mortar shells were fired into a crowd at a protest rally. Hundreds of people had gathered to demonstrate against a proposed UN peace deal that's intended to end the fighting in Libya and unite the country. It's not yet known who fired the mortars, but many residents suspect Islamist militias may have been responsible. The US Defense Secretary Ashton Carter has said he expects more raids like the one on Thursday in northern Iraq that freed 70 hostages held by Islamic State militants. He said he ordered the operation by American special forces and Kurdish fighters because intelligence suggested the prisoners were about to be executed and their graves had already been dug. At least 30 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in a bomb attack on a newly built mosque in Yola in northeastern Nigeria. 8 police officers in the Canadian province of Quebec have been suspended or transferred over allegations that they sexually assaulted Aboriginal women. A group of women in the town of Val d'Or have filed formal complaints alleging that officers took them to remote areas and made them perform sex acts. Many of the allegations, which date back over 2 decades, were highlighted in interviews the women gave to a Canadian broadcaster. The authorities in the self-declared Donetsk People's Republic in eastern Ukraine have revoked the accreditation of the international aid organisation Doctors Without Borders. The group said no reason was given for the ban, but it would have life-threatening consequences for many people. BBC News.
Broadcast Jamaican and Newscast 93 FM now gear the news in the Jamaican language.
Good evening. My name is Kadeen Marshall and this is the news in the Jamaican language. Major Marlon Kennedy been at the Tivoli Garda Commissioner inquiry this morning how him soldier them buck up on over 4,000 gunshot. As according to Major Kennedy, the gunshot them been in some plastic buckle in the trunk of one car were being parked outside of the Christopher Dodos Cook Presidential Click office where they are the Java section at Tivoli Garden. Kennedy said he be in charge of the group of soldiers them and the gunshot of them find using an M16 and AK-47 rifle and 9mm gun. The National Water Commission NWC said right now them have some problem with the old Matabria treatment plant in Chilani, so some of them customers in the parish have problem with how them get water. The NWC said right now them are work on the problem so people can get back water by Tuesday, October 27. Some of the places them are Chilani, Falmouth, Rock, Copper's Pen, Matabria Rock Relief and Daniel Town. The NWC said them sorry about what's going on right now and them ask them customers to have some patience with them. Some detective who work at the Chapperton police station and asked if everybody else for find two smaddy but know something was gone in one case so they before the court now. Them a Lincoln Owell were last address at Redland District in Clarendon and Rosemary Brown were last address at Dam Road, John Hall, St. James. Them for go before the court on Wednesday, November 4. The police asked anybody who know a Lincoln Owell or Rosemary Hall Brown there for call the Chapperton Police on 987-2244, 987-2260, 119 or the nearest police station. News from the rest of the Caribbean. The Caribbean Development Bank CDB said they are going to lend Antigua and Barbuda US $106.1 million up to 2018 for fix up some things in the country. As according to the CDB, the Antigua government are going to use the money to get back them financial sector on track, fix up them education system so that everybody in the country have access to education and fix up some building. They are going to use the money for cut down the cost for energy, make more competition go on in the private sector, make sure so the country have clean and safe water. News from foreign. Jacob Zuma, where the president for South Africa, same government now raise up university fee for next year after 1,000 university student being block some road and a cost bad. These are the biggest student protests in the country since 1994. The student then said them now work with the government for one raise up them school fee by 6%. The student then been there outside the president office of course. Me name Kadeen Marshall and that are the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and New Start 93 FM just give the news in the Jamaican language.
The 5 o'clock Sports Roundup is brought to you by News Talk 93 FM, life-changing radio.
Good afternoon. I am Mikhail Drama Johns with your 5 o'clock sports roundup here on News Talk 93 FM, and we begin with football. Today marks the final day of the Beaches Negril Interdepartmental Football Competition. The final between maintenance and stewarding will begin at 7:30 p.m. Before that, an invitational match between Couples Swept Away and Beaches Management is set for 5:30 p.m. The matches are slated for the resort's football field. And tomorrow we'll see Flo Issa Super Cup champions Jamaica College JC kickstart their title defense when they face Veer Technical at the National Stadium for a 6 p.m. start. And that will be preceded by the matchup between St. Jago High and Lacovia High at 4 p.m. $2.5 million is being poured into the competition, which saw organizers this year seeding teams to avoid a clash of the better teams in the first round. In other fixtures, favourite St. George's College will play Petersfield High in the last game of a triple header at Hall Sports Complex in St. p.m. At the third venue at Catherine Hall Sports Complex in St. p.m. At the third venue at Catherine Hall Sports Complex in St. James, Glenmuir High and Kingston College clash in the curtain raise at 2 p.m. St. Elizabeth Technical High School Steds play Charlie Smith at 4 p.m. and St. James High will face Excelsior High at 6. The final, meanwhile, is set for Saturday, November 14. More football. Last evening's Western Sports-sponsored Business House five-a-side action saw UDC and Kingston Bookshop playing to a 0-0 stalemate. Scotiabank Group B blanked Food for the Poor 2-0. Surrey Hotel Management beat McKay Security 3-1. Alcor Windows and Doors shut out Unicoma B 1-0. And Connex beat Creative Windows and Doors 3-0. In other games, Tasty Limited beat Fontana Pharmacy 2-1. Massey Rubies fell by a similar 2-1 to Rainforest. And the Restaurant of Jamaica were bettered 1-0 by Peak Bottling Company. Further afield, Sunday will see the English Premier League EPL's Manchester derby taking place as United host City. While Man U has no report of fresh injuries, Ashley Young is still not ready to return from a calf problem. Giving him company on the sidelines are Paddy McNair and Luke Shaw. As for Man City, manager Manuel Pellegrini would not confirm whether Vincent Kompany would be recalled for his first club start in 6 weeks. Meanwhile, they are still without the injured four that are David Silva, Sergio Aguero, Gael Clichy, Samir Nasri and Fabian Delph. Man City sit atop the tables with 21 points from 9 games, 2 more than both Arsenal and Man U, who are second and third respectively. Arsenal are the better of the pair with a +9 goal difference in comparison to +7 for Man U. The Gunners will also go into action over the weekend as they face a 9th place Everton come tomorrow. A win would therefore put them atop the tables provisionally. In other EPL games tomorrow, 4th placed West Ham play a struggling Chelsea, who are 12th, while Leicester, who round out the top 5, play Crystal Palace, who are a place below them.
Even more football. England and Scotland have both been fined by European governing body UEFA. The charge is failing to control their fans during recent Euro 2016 qualifiers. The English FA has been fined €15,000 and the Scottish FA €20,000. Meanwhile, Poland and Lithuania were also punished for the behaviour of their supporters. And now we move on to cricket. The West Indies today experienced a batting collapse in their second and final test versus Sri Lanka. After opening the second day on 17 runs for the loss of a wicket, having bowled the host for a first innings 200 yesterday, the regional side today got dismissed for 163 runs. Opener Kamal Brathwaite was their best at bat with 47, while captain Jason Holder was the only other batsman to get out of the teens with 21 runs. The Sri Lankans then returned to the crease, putting up 76 runs and losing 2 wickets in 31 overs. That sees them with a lead of 113 runs. And the second test between England and Pakistan sees the English guests trailing by 196 runs with 7 wickets remaining. Today's second day had opened with the host on 282 for 4. They went on to make 378 before the loss of their final wicket. Misbah-ul Haq was their top scorer with 102 runs, followed by a half-century of 56 by Eunice Khan. And for the ladies, the West Indies women will tomorrow contest their 4th and final one-day international ODI versus Pakistan. The penultimate encounter, contested on Wednesday, saw the regional side winning by some 109 runs. By virtue of that win, they now lead the series 2-1. And finally, in tennis, the 4th staging of the Maybury Investments Limited Open Junior Tennis Championship opens tomorrow. Being held at the Ligony Club in New Kingston, things serve off at 9 a.m. The tourney should see over 70 young players competing in this weekend's tournament. And that's it for the 5 o'clock sports roundup here on Newstalk 93 FM. I am Mikhail Drama Johns saying stay tuned as we bring to you the business news and weather report.
The 5 o'clock sports roundup was brought to you by Newstalk 93 FM, life-changing sports radio.
At 28 minutes after 5, it's time for business news. On the local stock market, the index advanced by 952.69 points to close at 123,979.42. The junior market index advanced by 17.52 points to close at 1,310.65. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 39 stocks, of which 23 advanced, 9 declined, and 7 traded firm. Market volume amounted to over 3 million units, valued at over $53 million. Jamaica Broilers Group was the volume leader. Stocks advancing: AMG Packaging and Paper, Burita Investments, Carib Cement, Caribbean Cream, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, Derrimon Trading, Dolphin Cove, General Accident Insurance, Gleaner, Grace Kennedy, Jamaica Broilers, Jamaica Stock Exchange, Jamaican Teas, JMMB, Lasco Manufacturing, Lime, Mayberry Investments, Pan Jamaican Investment, Paramount Trading Jamaica Limited, Proven Investment, Sagicor Group, Sagicor Real Estate, Scotia Investments. Stocks declining: Caribbean Producers Jamaica, Carreras, Epley, Lasco Distributors, Lasco Financial Services, Margaritaville, NCB, Proven Investments, and Scotia Group. And on the foreign exchange market today, the US dollar closed at $119.68, the pound at $184.30, the Canadian at $91.20, and the euro at $132.60. And that's business news. And now we take a look at the weather. There is a trough across Jamaica and the Western Caribbean, which is expected to linger across the country for the next 3 days. In the forecast for tonight, expect partly cloudy conditions. And now, to end this newscast, a recap of the main points. Departure lounge at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston evacuated after smoke was seen coming from the exhaust system. Medical Association of Jamaica, MAJ, raises concerns about the country's readiness to respond to critical issues following deadly outbreaks of infections at 2 hospitals. Court rules that Children's Advocate does not have the right to withhold information where rights to freedom of movement have been severely restricted, and opposition Senator Marlene Malahoo Fort suspended from the Senate until she provides a letter supporting her claims regarding the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. And that's the 5 o'clock news, sports and weather package right here on Newstalk 93 FM. I'm Andre Bernard.